Guys, so it's been a while since I've worked on the Insight, and I finally got some parts in to work on it. So last video I left off with starting to put in axles and then realizing that I needed to swap these knuckles to K-series knuckles and hubs and everything. So got some parts here. So I want to show you the axles. So these are hasport K-swap axles for the Insight. There's that specific length. Here is a Toyota Yaris axle for comparison, so quite a bit thicker here. These are rated for pretty high horsepower. Not sure exactly how high, but I won't be anywhere near that. So, and then the Insight axles are probably, they were probably half the size of these. So, yeah. That's just something. All right, so let's review the rest of the parts here that we're going to be putting on. Now, these parts for the knuckle conversion are going to be coming from an 01 to 05 Civic or an 02 to 03 Civic Si. So first we have knuckles here. And we're not using these ball joints. We are using these stock Insight ball joints. So I'm going to have to press these out. We have bigger calipers and bigger rotors, some Raybestos pads, some front brake lines. These clips are for the wheel bearings. These clips and nuts are for the ball joint adapters. Don't know why I have ARP here. We have some Ricer mods that I'm going to put on because of the theme that I'm going with. This is a sensor for the intake. This is a sensor for the intake. We have some caliper bolts here. And, all right, then we have over here in the fridge. These are getting cold because they all need to be pressed in. Insightful Motorsports ball joint adapters, which use the stock Insight ball joints, and they get pressed into the Civic knuckles. We have some wheel bearings and some wheel hubs. These are the only part that you need to put these things on that are like special. So you have Insightful Motorsports, which use the stock Insight ball joint in a K-series knuckle, or you have Professional Awesome, which I think is a better design because they use these Civic ball joints instead. It's just that you need to get your I believe your control arms, your lower control arms machined to fit that ball joint and the adapter inside of it. Obviously the Civic ball joint's going to be a little stronger because it's bigger, but yeah, you would have to get this machined to fit it. Now, unfortunately, I did try to contact Professional Awesome quite a few times through email. They got back to me once, and I asked them about them. They were out of stock. It's been 3 months now. They're still not in stock, so I just ordered the Insightful Motorsports ones. Because I'm kind of on a time restraint for this car. You know, it's already been over a year since I've had it, and I really want to get it on the road. So I'm just now wrapping up buying everything that I need for it. So yeah. Yeah, let's get into it. Let's take the car apart. So I already took off the wheel and the strut bolts. This one's just hand tight. Next, I'm going to be taking off the lower ball joint bolt right here. And then, yeah, I'll get back to you after that's off. Just need to separate this ball joint and take off this whole assembly here. I'm replacing these with stock OEM. I am replacing these with new brake lines here, so I'm actually just going to take off this bolt right here and let these calipers hang to kind of let them be out of the way a little bit more. So also a speed sensor right here, or sorry, an ABS sensor that needs to come off before you can take off the whole assembly here. So this ball joint bolt or nut is not coming off, so I'm gonna try my best to kind of cut this like this without damaging the threads, because I need the ball joint. Tried heat, tried an impact gun, tried everything. Bolts rounded off completely now. I don't know what to do. So just gonna cut it. I don't need it anyway. I have new bolts for the new ball joints. So yeah, I don't need to worry about damaging this either, this knuckle. So yeah, cutting it. Okay, so I tried to cut it and I ended up just really messing it up, including the ball joint itself. Unfortunately, they do not make just ball joints, so I had to buy a whole lower control arm with the ball joint in it. You know, because of the obscurity of the car, that's some of the issues that you get. So I'm just going to take out this lower control arm and then put the new one in there when I get it. But at least for this video, I'm still going to finish this side of things. So I'm going to get out that lower control arm. Looks like it's just one bolt here, taking this cover off, which is 3 bolts. And then there's probably a bolt under here that I need to get to. Okay, so it looks like I have to take off these 2 as well. Just took out one and loosened the other one, and I was able to wiggle it out, so that side's out, and it's prepped for when I get the part. Okay, so that concludes disassembly for now until we get to the calipers. So next I'm going to press these old ball, well, they're new, but the ball joints out. So take off the cotter pin, take off the nut, then you take off this clip right here, get the boot off, and then you can press them on this side out through. And I'm gonna be using my Harbor Freight jack over there. Get these boots off, I just used a pick. So here's the setup to press the ball joints out. You're not really supposed to, this is kind of bad to do, but we didn't have a collar that was small enough to fit between here. So we have this collar on the back, this piece, and this is just pressing right on the ball joint itself. But this is working, it's coming out, but these are probably bad now. So if you do it, don't plan on reusing these ever. Okay, so now as you can see, both of the old ball joints are out of these. So next we're gonna press in the adapters. All right, so here's how we had it set up to press in the ball joint adapter. So nothing here, a collar, a spacer, and then that. And they went in pretty okay. You definitely need an impact gun for sure. Okay, so the snap ring is now in. Just gonna repeat on that side, and then we'll get the wheel bearings pressed in and the hubs. Okay, so here's my setup. I have this. The bearing's already pressed, but I used a socket up here, this guy, and then yeah, just pressed it in. Went in nice and easy. Almost went in without me even really having to, went in like maybe 1/8 of an inch without me even having to press it. So just gonna do the other one now, and then we'll get on to the wheel hubs. Also, something I forgot to note is I spray the outside of these bearings and the inside of the knuckle with WD-40 before I press them in. Done. The wheel bearings came with the clips I think it was the wheel bearings. The clips and the axle nuts. I'm not going to use the axle nuts because the Hasport ones come with their own that are a lot beefier than these guys. So I am going to be throwing these out and putting in these clips for the wheel bearings. Alright, so I had to grind these down and get some pliers that were special because they're big, because these are ridiculously tight. Anyway, a couple hours later, a couple store trips later, those clips are in, so now it's going to be time to press in the hubs. Okay, so here's the setup I have for pressing in the hubs. I have a ring down here, and we have the hub itself, the knuckle, a plate, and then a socket. Good. All right, so here's what they look like now. And you can see you have the hub, a little bit of a step up, the bearing, and then a little bit of a step up, and then this surface right here. But looking good on both of them. This one I actually accidentally used a ring here instead of the flat piece. The first one I did, so that one kind of messed up the bearing a little bit. But then I put the plate back on here and pressed it down in how I'm supposed to. So this one's good, this one's good. These are basically ready to go onto the car at this point. Okay, so I'm over here on the passenger side. I'm going to be putting this castle nut that came with the ball joint adapters onto the ball joint. It should fit. There we go, fits like a glove. So I'm going to get this tightened down, get a pin through there, and then probably get the axle in next. The ball joint threads were a little rusty, so I used the titanium nut. Just hold it with these pliers to keep it from spinning. So when I tried to tighten it down, it was spinning. So let me get that on there, and then I'll get back with you guys. Okay, so I got it on. Before I really tighten this thing down though, I'm going to be putting in the axle and then putting these bolts in, the strut bolts. So let's get in the axle. Passenger side has this. What we're going to do is make sure that this ring is down to make it a little easier on ourselves. And then obviously, because that's like that, here's your passenger side axle. So I'm going to lube up this right here, and then also the hub. And we're going to push this in there and get it all set. And then I'll show you guys when I'm done that. Okay, so here's what it looks like now that they're mated. This is a little close. I might take this piece off here. It's not needed. It's just a cover for the rubber grommet in this control arm. But if I take this and just kind of, you can hear it smacking, and you hear that metallic noise. That means it's all the way in. And then of course visually it looks like it's all the way in. So now I'm going to put this end into the spindle here. All right, so I just kind of turned it that way, angled the axle in, and then just gave it a little push. And now you can see that this axle is ready to be pulled all the way through. Next, I'm going to be bolting up the spindle here. So yeah, that's next order of business. And if you're doing this conversion on the Insight, you're going to realize that these Civic spindles, knuckles, whatever the hell you call them, there is a big gap right here. So what I did is I went and I bought a bunch of washers to put in there. I'm just going to put them all on this back side here on both sides. That way the car is still equal as far as its steering geometry and everything. But so yeah, I got some washers to put in there. I also had to cut a couple bolts and nuts off to get these strut bolts out originally. So I am not using OEM bolts. I'm using one aftermarket bolt with a washer, and then I'm using a nut and a washer for everything else because I didn't have the flange washers, or nuts, flange nuts. Okay, so here's what my setup looks like now that it's tight. Here's the OEM bolts with the washers as the spacer. Here's my aftermarket setup because I didn't want to spend $1 million on bolts. Hopefully that's all right. It's really heavy duty stuff from what they were telling me, so should be good enough for a strut bolt. The other are the bolts. I just have to use these nuts on them. So yeah, that's that side done. I'm just gonna get this tightened down back here and the cotter pin in it, and that's the spindle on. So yeah, this went really smooth. I don't know what else to say. It did go really smooth. I got to get the axle nut on too, obviously. But yeah, it's good. Something else with this is that these OEM speed sensors do fit perfectly into these Civic Knuckles. So that's good. Also, with these hubs, the original Insight lug nuts will fit. Okay, so I don't want to start the brakes quite yet, and it's starting to get dark out. So I'm just going to leave it here for today, and I'll get back with you guys soon. Last thing is, let's put on the little ball over here, the little smiley face. Okay, so he's on there nice and tight. And I got him facing backwards just so he can look down on all the Mustangs I'm about to be gapping in this thing. But yeah, all right, waiting for this control arm to come, and then I'll do this side and I'll start on the brakes for you guys. All right, so it's been a couple days, got my new control arm. Let's get this mounted on and then repeat that stuff. All right, so I didn't want to bore you guys with the install, but obviously just a bolt here, the covers, 3 bolts there, and we have our new control arm installed. A little stiff feeling, but I guess that's what a new one's supposed to feel like. Okay, so once again, now I have the knuckle on, I got the bolt started. Next I'm gonna put the axle in, and then once the axle's in, I'll get my strut bolts in, and then tighten that back down, and we'll be good to go. So here's the axle up under the transmission. Took me about 3 tries to get it in correctly. If you see any silver in here of the main part of the axle, it's not seated all the way. So this is seated all the way. This is what it should look like. And now let's get this side in there. Okay, so now I got the axle into the hub. Let's get these bolts in, get this tightened down, and then get this tightened down. And notched. Obviously, it has a little notch. You want to notch it with a screwdriver. All right, so once again, here's the setup. I got 3 washers and my new bolts and nuts. Well, a new nut on this one in this case, and the rest is OEM stuff. Got this guy tightened down and a cotter pin in there. Got this thing tightened down and notched. And as you can see, the washers are facing the back of the car on this side. And they're also facing the back of the car on this side. So that should make everything even. But yeah, looking good. All right, so next I'm gonna start taking these brake lines out so I can do these calipers here. Firstly, I'm probably gonna just disconnect the caliper just so it's not hanging there heavy. But next, it's gonna be a little bolt right here, little brake line bolt. And yeah, looks like shouldn't be too crazy. It's really tight though. So after a lot of heat and a lot of PB Blaster, I was able to get the brake lines cracked. So let me get them off, and then I'm gonna take out these 2 bolts here and then just replace them with the new brake lines that I have right here. Okay, so the brake lines are now off. I sprayed these down with brake clean, and now I'm gonna throw the new ones on there. And then after that, we'll get the calipers and rotors mounted. All right, so as you can see, I got these new brake lines mounted here. So now this whole part is brand new. Gonna have to figure out the routing, and I also had to drill these brackets to get this to fit right. I did make sure I'm using the right ones on the right sides, but they just were off. As far as this, it looks a little weird with this bracket. Gonna have to kind of figure that out, I think. But you know, other than that, I want to get my calipers mounted first, so calipers and rotors are next, and then yeah. Okay, so I brake cleaned the rotors, and now I'm about to mount them on here with the screws, the set screws, and then I'll get the calipers on. All right, rotors are on. Hit this with the impact screwdriver once or twice, so that's good. Next is going to be calipers. Okay, so here I have everything to get the calipers mounted, the calipers themselves. The hardware, I have both sets here and here. These came with the pads, these came with the calipers. I think I'm going to use these. I got some Ray Bestos pads, and then I got the caliper bolts here. That's everything you're going to need as far as the brakes go. All right, so I got my hardware mounted into the calipers here. Next is going to be adding a thin layer of grease onto both the hardware and these edges of the pads here. So I'll do that. Okay, so next I actually took off the brackets here and decided to mount them. Got the hardware here, still need to grease it, and Dad recommended that I do put in the second one, even though I've seen plenty of cars that have two and they only ever have one bolt in them. But yeah. All right, so now the brake pads have been greased and put on, and you want to make sure the squealer is on the top inside corner here. And yeah, so that's looking good. Gonna get this bracket tightened down and then get the caliper mounted. All right, so now I got the caliper mounted. Here's what it's looking like. This line is a little funky. This is an OEM Insight line. It's just not fitting correctly. So like I said, I had to drill up here. And then when I went to run it down the exact same path as the old OEM lines, this bracket was not lining up here. And it doesn't really matter anyway, because it wouldn't have had the reach to down here. But so this is how we have it run currently. Just kind of up through between the strut and this sway bar link. And then we got it here. So I think I'm gonna find a way to mount it to this where the original one was somehow. I might make like a little, I don't know, I might wire tie it. I might make a little metal plate and just bolt this and that to the plate or something. I'm not sure, but it's got to be mounted somehow. Maybe mount this to here. I'll show you guys though whenever it's done. So just to show you guys our temporary solution, took a piece of rubber hose and a bunch of wire ties and just wire tied them to where the old brackets were. Here's the bracket on the new line, but that's our temporary solution. And then I'll fix that later properly. But yeah. Next, I'm going to be filling up the brake fluid and bleeding the brakes, and we're done with the front brake conversion to a Civic. So yeah, and then I'm gonna put this stuff on too. But yeah, that's about it for the video, unless you want to watch me put that stuff on, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. All right, so for the end of this video, we have the AutoZone mods here. We have a hood scoop, which I drilled holes into because I didn't want it to trap air and fly off. We have some fake vents here for the fenders. Race fuel only sticker. And then we have some command hooks that are supposed to look like vortex generators. So let's get these things on the car. I already wiped it and let it dry, so let's install them. These side vents are not going to be able to fit here on the fender where I wanted to put them, because of the way the body is shaped. They're popping off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them right here on the door, as close to this as possible, something like that, and I'll show you guys when I'm done. So here we have it. We have the door vents. I try to line them up with this body line right here. We have a hood vent which is, I think, a little bit off center. I can't tell if it's the hood vent or the logo is off center. I think it's the hood vent, hood scoop, whatever. We have our smiley face ball back here. We have some vortex generators on the back, race fuel only. And then if we go to the back, we have a spoiler. It's 3D printed. I identify as a Ferrari. Okay. Insight, I'm gonna color in this SI red, and then a Honda badge. Oh, and some balls down there, some truck nuts. So yeah, that's, other than the scratch mark stickers for the headlights, that's all I'm gonna be doing for cringy mods on this thing. Obviously they all stick on, so not really ruining the car by drilling holes into it, other than just this wire tie here for the truck nuts. But yeah, figured small yellow balls for an Asian rice burner kind of checks out. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please sub, and there'll be more episodes coming soon. This car, I'm hoping to have it done in a month from now.